you started out as an editor, and like,
Sure.
are you getting your career?
I started out, my first film job was on Gangs of New York, which was a Martin Scorsese film which was shot in Rome, where I was living. And to cut a long story short, I ended up on the production for 7 months and got into Thelma Schoonmaker's editing room. And every time I went in there, I got very excited. And also I saw dailies every day, and seeing what he acquired, and then thinking about how he was going to reduce that. Because I was in a camera department, and I was thinking about camera, and I realized I couldn't do the numbers, but the editing was just, that was what I was interested in. And then that's when I started to pursue it.
In terms of your development to this point, would you say that was a kind of a mixture of educational and sort of honed skill?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, look, I was very, very, very sure that I wanted to make films,
Okay.
which is why I got very depressed working in commercials, because nobody cares about the work,
Sure.
ever. So they pay you a lot, but then the work is always just... And that was very depressing to me, so I thought, I can't pursue this, and I can't seriously pursue it because I just want to cut my wrists.
Yeah.
But the getting a film was just a piece of luck, because I didn't really know people in the business. I had one friend who was producing in London, and I didn't live in London, and it was blind luck that Nicolas needed an editor, and I moved to London to do that, and yeah, my wife nearly left me, but it was very much like, okay, I mean, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
And then how did you meet Nicolas Winding Refn?
I met Nick because he came to London to do a Miss Marple, and my friend was the producer of that film. And my friend said, "Here's Matt." And Nick, I have to say, was very indifferent. He was just like, "Yeah, sure." And I hadn't cut a feature. I'd just done lots of commercials, but I was like, "Sure." And then he called me for Bronson, and then he kept calling.
What's that from?
Fine.
That one?
Fine. Fine.
You're very muscly, aren't you? Mind if I hold your arm? Oh my God. It's huge.
There was a freedom, do you think, you got with Nicolas that
with Nick.
you perhaps wouldn't have got, do you think?
Well,
or
I can't say because I don't know other directors. I know for a fact that Scorsese is in the editing room a lot, and he likes it. He wants to be in the editing room. Other directors come in to make final cut. I've heard horror stories about directors that are like, "Do you mind if I sit at the Avid and you can go and get a tea?" And then the poor editor's like, every director has his own process, and I know what Nick's process is.
Right.
And for me, that means I have a lot of freedom, but that is also comes from the fact that Nick and I have discovered we have the same taste. So Nick has a very specific taste and a certain idea about how a movie should look, and I've found out, because I've learned everything I know from this guy in terms of like how you shoot a movie, but then how you put it together is kind of like, it's just luck that I kind of understood what he was going for and knew how to do it in a certain way.
Do you come in quite early in the process, like in the development, or do you come in when they start shooting?
Yeah, I mean, he always vets my opinion on the scripts, and I have to say that he's very good at not listening to me, because I told him not to do Drive, the first version of the script. I didn't like it. It was a studio action film.
Right.
It was really trashy, and I said, "Nick, this is awful." He said, "Yeah, but it's Ryan, and we're going to change it." So it's like, "Okay, but don't do this one. This one is awful." But he's like, "Yeah, but a man in a car in LA could be cool." So, but the first script was a studio. It was like a Hugh Jackman action film, and it was ghastly.
I heard that you cut out a lot of the dialogue, like something like 50 or 60% of the dialogue.
Yeah.
It didn't end up in the film.
Yeah, but the script, that
was in the editorial.
Yeah, but the first script was just was like a smart-ass Hollywood script, where every time somebody said something, the driver had a one-liner. But that went very quickly. And it went back to the book, where the driver was much more mysterious, but he even talks a lot in the book. But basically with Ryan, once they started shooting it, I know that Ryan was like, can I just not say anything? And Nick would be like, sure, why not? And it turned out, and that was really working. And then they would come in and watch it, and that's the direction they went in.
Director wants to see a rollover. You okay with that? Remember, if you don't feel good, just abort the shot. There's no shame in that, all right? I mean, you're doubling for the start. You're not like a day player or anything. And I got you 500 more, huh? Of course, we split that. You okay? Ready to go? All right. Counting on you.
I mean, a lot of people saw Drive and just hated it. I know a lot of people had a hard time with Valhalla, and just, they're not easy movies. They're extremely, you have to go to the film. Lots of commercial productions, and there's no knock against them, but they come and sit in your lap. It's really, they do everything they can to ingratiate themselves to you, because they want you to like the film and they want you to be involved. And Nick could care less. He wants the movie to be good for itself. And so they can be very, I think they can be quite stony if you're not, if you don't like that attitude of the film.
Okay.
I personally love it, but
Yeah.
I mean, my father didn't get Valhalla. He was just like, I couldn't, you know, he was just knocking his head against a glass wall.
What do you see? Yourself? When I die, you will go back to hell.
Valhalla, I specifically think is the,
Oh
you know,
man,
there's-
the
there's-
guts. I know.
There was like a whole scene where a guy's like
I know.
devoured.
I know.
and it's-
It was in slow
and how
motion
does-
as
how-
well.
yeah. And how do you, and as an individual, how do you sort of?
Well, look, when
deal
you
with
see it, the first, obviously, this is what has to be, I mean, you'll know this as an editor yourself, those things never have any impact outside of the context of the film,
Yeah.
ever. When they shot that, it was pig guts. I mean, you just look at it and go, ugh, but you react the same way you would if you saw a chicken getting its neck snapped. It's not emotional, it's just gross. And you know you're doing it right when you see it in the context of the film and you're shocked. So I'm trying to think. I mean, in Valhalla, that's horrible, and that came down to an argument about frames. You know, more guts, no less guts, more guts, less guts. But then other things in that film, it's not a violent movie. Apart from that, there's, you know, not much happens.
Yeah.
Whereas Drive, once that gets going, and the thing is that. And I have to say this, I know it's kind of graphic, but I watched Fast 5 recently, and that film was violent. That was just people running around with machine guns, just shooting everybody. I mean, it was just, the body count in that movie was absurd, but it was fun. The violence was part of the fun. And it's okay, I mean, that's like a certain way of watching a genre film.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in Drive, you spend the first hour, it's a drama, and you totally, if you like the film, you believe in those people. So all you need is that. I saw the whole cinema, I went, because it's like, no, but that's Shannon. And it's not actually that nasty. It's just this, you know, it's not, you know, someone's head explodes. But that's when I knew, like, okay, we got it, because everybody was shocked.
I was getting excited about this whole thing. My name on a car. I mean, look how beautiful. I wanted to see my name on this thing. I think we would have made a go at this business.
I heard that you stayed in the house with Karen Mulligan. You edited the film at Refn's house.
It was at Nick's house. We set up at his house, and he would shoot and come back. I forget why Carrie was there. I think she
just didn't have a place.
She didn't have a place in LA, and the production offered her something, but Nick was just like, "You can stay here," and because his family wasn't there, so she just stayed. She made everyone carrot cake. She was really nice. She didn't have many days. She's not in the film that much, so she was there and just hung out. And then she hung out because she was in LA and she was waiting for her next job. And Ryan came by a lot. When Ryan would talk about it, that was strange because he would talk about, I think, the driver here, and he talks about the character in the third person. He would never say, look, oh, I'm not good in that take. He's looking at it in a certain way, like how it's fitting into the film as well, I think. He's very good at the big picture. So, but yeah, I don't go to the set, for example, because then you suddenly, you know, I was there for the motel stuff, the shootout in the motel, and I remember how small the room was and how difficult it was to get that, and then of course you're sitting there looking at it and it immediately invades your consciousness. And some editors are fine with that, but that's a problem for me, when I know what it took to get a shot, rather than just seeing as the shot of value to the way to tell the story.
So it sounds like a fantastic working relationship. Has there been any times at all where
it hasn't been?
Well, it hasn't been. Well, I have to ask because it's
No,
it's
sure,
been,
no.
you know, sort of.
But that's the weird thing is it's not a contentious relationship because first of all, Nick doesn't thrive on conflict, and I know a lot of people do, and that's good too, you know, to be like, you know, and argue. But Nick's not an arguer. If you make a case for something that he doesn't like, he'll go away and think about it for 2 days.
Right.
There were things that I offered him on Drive in music at the beginning, in editing choices. He's just like, really? But he wouldn't just go. He'd go, okay, let me think about it.
Did you work with that music while you were in the edit? Was that something maybe that drove some of
That was the big part of the yeah. It was. So what happened was when I arrived there, the first thing Nick and Ryan said was, show us your iTunes library. Ryan hired Nicolas. He called him and bugged him to do this movie. And one of the reasons was Bronson. And the reason he loved Bronson, one of the reasons he loved was because of the impact of that film, the way there's music in it. It's kind of a crazy movie. And they were thinking the same for Drive, that we would have this electronic soundtrack. So they were listening to Kraftwerk and all this other stuff. Nick had already started listening to this trashy Europop, and I had a bunch of it. And all of those songs that are in the film, we all practically were listened to on the first 2 nights that we got together and made our top 10. We're just like, oh, these are great, and they'll get in the film somehow. And then it was just deployment. And the Night Call track, which is the title sequence, that's when I knew how the film was going to feel. And when I showed it to Nick as well, he was just like, all right, we're done. It's got to feel like that.